The first place we visited on our little tour of artisan craftspeople in Florence was Pitti Mosaici, where they make Florentine mosaic. So Florentine mosaic was developed in the 16th century, I believe, for the Medici family, who wanted a way of decorating their family vault that was appropriately grand and decorative and expensive and extravagant. And so they developed this method called Florentine mosaic. It's very different from what you might think of as mosaic. There's no grout involved. And instead of having little squares or little pieces of tile put together, it's made entirely from stone or marble or sheets of whatever material they're using, cut so that they fit together absolutely perfectly like a jigsaw puzzle. So it's a very traditional craft. It's still done in the same very traditional way that it was in the 16th century. And so we were taken to see the workshop. We weren't allowed to take any video there, so I'm afraid you've just got photographs. And you can see the first room we went into was just full of racks and racks and racks of different kinds of stone. And the lady there, who is our tour guide, is spraying some of them with water so that we can begin to see the colours on them. One of the ones that catches your eye first is this blue stone. This is lapis lazuli. I'm never quite sure how you pronounce that, which is blue and produces ground up. Artists used it for ultramarine blue. And it's sort of, you can kind of see it's blue, and then when she sprays the water on it, the colour really comes out, and it's so deep and rich and absolutely beautiful. There you can see the kind of big chunks these are of rock that they've got that they're going to be working with. They've also got malachite, that's the green rock you can see at the end of that rack. I'm not quite sure what those rolls are on the floor. That's more of the malachite, that beautiful greenish blue. Yeah, I really loved that. So you can see there, and I've got, I think, some close-ups there. That beautiful rounded surface, but also the stripes in the malachite that they use. And all of these natural materials they use in extraordinary artistic ways when they do the mosaic. You can see some of those are very stripy. The colours look very delicate, but again, when they're wet, they'll end up having more depth to them. So those stripes, that beautiful sort of yellowy, pinky one, I don't know what that is. This kind of iridescent, some of them look. I think that's the Arno rock. So rock which they take out of the river Arno, that's the river in Florence, sort of green and yellow stripes. I don't know what all of these are. They were all labelled. So these are the plans, the outlines for the designs they're doing, and they need to be incredibly precise, because once you've cut your bit of rock, you do not want to have to go back and do it again. So this is one of the master craftsmen. He's been working on it for 45 years. I don't think the tour guide was actually spraying him with water, although it does slightly look like it from here. So neither he nor his colleague spoke any English, but the tour guide does and would translate for us. So I think in a moment we're going to see a picture. There, the parrot is the design that he's currently working on. So it's quite a traditional design, I guess. There's a lot of detail in it, a lot of beautiful colours in it. So you can see there behind him, he keeps drawers with little sheets of each of the kinds of rock. There's a separate room where they cut the slabs of rock, chunks of rock, into these sheets. And he then draws the outline of each piece precisely onto the sheet of rock, and then cuts them out. And what we're going to see is how he cuts them out in exactly the same way that they did in the 16th century. So that's a bit of wood. I think he said chestnut, but I might have got that wrong. Cut, you can see, into a whole semicircle, a bit bigger than a semicircle, and it has an iron wire across. I don't know whether they now use steel, but anyway, and he literally uses that as his saw. And with his other hand, his left hand, he's got a paintbrush with a bit of water just to make sure it doesn't get overheated, I think. And he's literally just cutting rock with that piece of steel wire or iron wire. There you go. You can see he's got a leaf shape drawn on the bit that he's doing there, and he's sawing it by hand. You do not want to get that wrong. Now, it is a relatively rough outline. After it's sawn, it gets hand filed and constantly sort of tested against the bit that he's putting it into. You can see there the parrot that he's working on. He's got the stick and the parrot off it and the fruit already there at the bottom. To stick them together, you don't stick them together at all on the front. Should feel completely smooth. And they use a mix of beeswax and resin as a little glue on the back. And then when the whole thing's done, they put a single sheet of stone on the back, glued on, so that it's completely smooth. You can see there just how precise those joins are, those shapes that he's working on. And that, I think, has got the beeswax on the back, which is why that looks quite blobby. And then when they turn it over, it will look completely smooth. And you should be able to sort of run your fingers over it and not feel any joins. This was the other chap who worked in the same studio. They sat opposite each other. I don't think they were a chatty bunch, to be honest. This guy told us via the guide that he had come to the workshop when he was 15, I think on like a school work experience kind of thing. And anyway, he has worked there for 30 years now. So he is also a master craftsman. He was doing that medieval picture you can see of the knight, incredibly detailed work, painstaking bit by bit, working out how to divide it up, how many colours you need, how to get just the right bit with just the right shading of each one. But again, a really traditional sort of design. You would be mistaken, however, if you thought they were all traditional. Round the corner, something that they are working on, the Millennium Falcon. And in fact, they're making a huge, great dining table of this with the Millennium Falcon in the middle. And they had up on the side the drawing of the plan of this. And we could also see the beginnings of the table cover. So it's going to have this in the middle, and then you can see the various symbols around, and they'll have to choose the right sort of marble for the background of that. But I just thought that was fabulous, really. We did go into their shop afterwards, but we weren't allowed to take photos in there. There were some very, very lovely things in there, which if I had thousands of euros to spare, I might have considered. But they were not all super, super traditional. And I really liked that you could see some of this would be the kind of thing commissioned by museums or stately homes or whatever the Italian equivalent is. But some of it is just people with plenty of money, obviously, having things they love. And really, that's what I loved about this. You could see the men who were doing it, it was their absolute passion. There was nothing else they wanted to do in life, and they would take as much care and love over their work as they possibly could in order to make pieces that people will love to have in their homes now and for a very long time indeed.